In this video, I shall talk about the payment schedule approval. So in the previous two videos, at first I talked about payment schedule creation. I then went to adding beneficiaries to a payment schedule. Now I am going to talk about um, sending the payment schedule for approval. So accessing my payment schedule, clicking on FPCU, I am still logged in as a state user. Clicking on draft, this is my draft payment schedule. Clicking on open, excuse me, we have the send for approval button right here. In addition to that, we can also send the payment schedule for approval by clicking on this button also. So it gives us a default name for the payment schedule, and we can add a description should we want to. Um, Payment schedule, blah. Then proceed. So upon successfully creating the approval process, it sends the payment schedule for approval. So this is the approval window for this payment schedule. If I come back to draft, I can no longer see my payment schedule because it is no longer in the draft state. It has been moved to the pending state, pending for approval. So also navigating to my data approval menu and viewing all the pending approval in my bay. I would also see the payment schedule that I just created. So as a state officer, need I remind us, this is a state officer logged in. I have access to creating the payment schedule and sending it to the next person, which is the accountant. So as the finance officer, I can perform my checks, check for duplicates if there are any, use these fields here to check for specific fields that might have duplicates. You can also use these fields here to check for any field you feel might have omission and search for it. So it uses the field selected here to check if there are any omissions. If you found any, you can ignore them or you could remove them. Removing them now deletes these three from the payment schedule. Then at the end of the day, since we have three beneficiaries here, we don't have anybody again. But we could archive these three to see who those three are by clicking on this second option here. By clicking on execute, it's going to archive these three. Then going back to archives, we shall see those three I initially archived. So these are the three people who have omission based on the fields I selected. So it happens that one of these fields um, has is omitted for some of these beneficiaries. So you can then go ahead to view who the beneficiary is. Go ahead to delete from here. So like I initially stated, deletion of a beneficiary in a payment schedule can only be done at the draft and pending state of the payment schedule. So, but I am just going to ignore and proceed to submit to the accountant. I can also view my payment schedule from my approval window, open the payment schedule to view additional information about the payment schedule, about people who have commented if there's any comments. Also in this payment schedule too, I could make a comment and other people down the chain of the payment schedule shall can see the comment, and reply to it. They can send the payment schedule back to you, exchange validations and whatnot before submitting to SPC to click on make payment. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit this and give it a reason. I am good. Then submit. So at this point of submission, if anyone who has notification ticked in their access role will receive an email notification of this particular payment schedule. So upon completion, it leaves the desk of the finance officer and it goes to the next person in the approval chain. Now, if I go back to my approval bay, I wouldn't see the payment schedule again. That is because it has left the state of the finance officer, but they can still have access to the payment schedule itself because it is still independent. Clicking on pending, you would see the payment schedule. Why is my internet? Clicking on the payment schedule, clicking on this pending button, you would still see the pending payment schedule. But I am going to go ahead and go to the next person. So the next person is the accountant. So I'm just going to change. I'm still going to use the same account, but I'm going to change. So in actuality, this should be different persons. I'm going to change my access role to that of the accountant, then log in again. Apologies for my internet. So I'm going to now that the payment schedule has left the desk of the finance officer, I'm going to log in as the accountant and approve the payment schedule. So I'm going to change my access to that of the accountant, and I am going to log in again. So I'm going to sign out and then sign in again. So now I am logged in as the state accountant. So the state accountant, who shall also receive a notification of this payment schedule, um, can navigate to view workflow, and he shall see the workflow in his own bay. Also, he can also have access to the payment schedule from the payment schedule, pending, open the payment schedule, verify or vet whatever he wants to vet. He can perform some of those actions from opening the payment schedule. So view workflow, look for the payment schedule, select it, click on open, then you can see the comments made by the previous person. You can also view the beneficiaries. You can view who is who, what is what. If he has done his own bets, he can either return to the finance officer with a comment or submit to the next person in the trail, which is the head FPCU. So I'm going to do that and submit. So the accountant has done his own checks on the payment schedule and submitted. So I'm also going to change this to the head FPCU to review so that I can log in with his account. So now I'm going to log in again as the head FPCU. Now this is the head FPCU logged in. Navigating to SPCU, he shall also receive a notification in his email if the email is active. Then you can come here, locate the payment schedule he wants to work on, open, you can view the beneficiaries, perform his own check, use the search button, their much and whatnot. Then proceed to complete the payment schedule. So clicking and viewing the beneficiaries, you can use this advanced search button here to search for against specific fields if it is equal to this or that. You can also use this search button here to search for errors you feel might be present in the payment schedule. So this is the end of the approval process. Once this is done, and then the final person, who is the SPC, will then be able to proceed to make payments. So upon submission, um, the workflow the approval of this payment schedule leaves his desk, then he then the SPC can then log in and make payments. So I am going to change this to SPC. So like I said, it's assumed that these are all different persons in the state. I'm going to log out and log in again with the new with the access of the SPC. So the SPC too has similar access. The SPC can see, the approved workflows that has been approved in the past by him or her. But navigating to payment schedule, now we can see the presence of some new buttons because this is the SPC logged in. Now the SPC can view pending payment schedules. The SPC can view payment schedules in the draft state. The SPC can also view payment schedule that has been approved. So this is the payment schedule that was approved, PS 10th Feb. So the SPC can open it, and then we can see the presence of new buttons here. We have the make payments, which we did not have before. And we have the absence of the add beneficiaries. We have the absence of the update of the amount. Oh, there's something I failed to do. I failed to update the amount of the amount due of the beneficiaries. But that can be done only at the draft state of the payment schedule. But now that the payment schedule has been approved, um, the payment has no money. Like the amount due for the beneficiaries is set to zero. But this completes the approval process of a payment schedule. This is how a payment schedule can be approved. It moves from the state officer initiates the approval process. The accountant does their review, then the submits to the head FPCU. The head FPCU does their review also, then submits to the SPC, state SPC. Then when the SPC logs in, the SPC has access to this approved menu here. Clicking on the approved, you would see all payment schedule that have been approved and are ready for payment. Clicking on the open here now shows you where to make payments. Thank you.